Yep. Right there. How's that for a shameless plug, Hunter? Thanks. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, man. It's my pleasure to be here, and I love what you're doing. We were just talking before we started recording how we both are kind of newly launching all this and how it's an important platform for men to find support. There's not always that much out there, or men don't always feel safe, right, in this kind of world. So yeah. 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 Don't ask for directions and don't ask for help, right? And hope the navigation will get you there. But yeah, actually, Hunter, like when we were talking, you just brought up, and I just want to reiterate what you were saying. Like in my CSAT practice, so many of my guys have come to me later and have admitted being betrayed in relationships, older relationships. And what I want you men to remember is that it doesn't matter when um, trauma happens, and especially sexual trauma often can be a big precursor to forms of sex addiction and forms of sexual acting out. And so don't minimize your wins. Like it's not like, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's so manageable. It's so easy to get help today. And there's so many people out there doing work on trauma. And most CSATs and betrayal trauma therapists and stuff know how to work in this area. So, yeah. Hmm. Uh, yeah, that's the big question. I love that. Yeah. It's like, you know, I can stereotype this and I will a little bit, but what I see a lot in my practice is that men, we have this amazing capacity to stuff our feelings down, to hold on to our trauma, to allow our ego to present to the world what we want the world to think we are or how we're doing. And the truth is, human nature, the human experience, we can only hold on to so much trauma. We can only hold on to so much pain, and then eventually it comes out sideways. And I mean, maybe because I'm a therapist, I do a lot of self help for myself, and I myself, my ex wife cheated on me, and on that journey, there wasn't like groups and things for men. And actually, I think I've been told that my book's probably the first written by a man for men tackling this, and I think men we're taught, right, to buck up, to hold on, right, that we'll be fine, and that's the other part, right, the social expectations that are put on us as men. And I often wonder, like, why do we die so young? Why are we losing our hair? Why are we having medical problems? And there's a great book written quite a long time ago, The Body Keeps the Score. There's a lot of scientific proof on how trauma and things like that land in our body and stay there. And the other part, and I know I'm rambling, I'm going to wrap your question up, is, I mean, I think it keeps you from being less a man. Like if you don't learn to be vulnerable, if you don't learn to be in your heart, if you don't learn how to hold boundaries and speak your truth, what are you? Like you're just this vessel. And the other part is that stuff comes out sideways in how you might interact with other coworkers, your spouse, your children. Like like do the work. I like to say man up, do the work, you know? Yeah. Yeah, very often. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Numb out. Well, also you just alluded to shame, just like in porn, right? Which is so shameful, and betrayal, having your partner cheat on you. I mean, you want to talk about like the biggest ego wound most men can ever have, right? And I remember on my journey, I went to this place of like, am I not enough of a man? Could I not keep her happy? What was I not doing? Was I not providing? Was that right? You go into that rabbit hole of shame, and it's just not. I mean, shame. I tell my clients all the time that shame is very often unspeakable, and we can't speak about something, we can't heal it, and then shame just becomes toxic. And like anything that's toxic, like a cancer, it just spreads and spreads and spreads till it kills you. Um, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of those, right? The shame, the social stigma. In my book, I like have a whole chapter about the ego wound, right? And the other part, like I was just a couple weeks back, I started with a new client, and he was telling me how he was like, I think I let her off the hook too soon, and I just jumped back in. And so many men I work with in the betrayal area, that seems to be the norm. I think I kind of did something like that too. I remember when my ex told me about her affair, one of the first things I told her was, I said, I wonder what my part was. And I want you men out there to know that there's nothing you can do short of cheating on your own partner that would allow someone, well, even that. I mean, there's nothing you can do that gives someone else permission for infidelity and cheating on you. If the marriage isn't working, they have to come to you and talk about it. Or if you're not showing up, right? But that mentality, right, of men, I'm going to fix everything, right? I think another big part that happens on why this is such not spoken, if you will. It's so taboo. Always, always. Or I'm gonna or pretend as if. I get a lot of that too, man. No, I just get guys that will tell me, we're just gonna move past this. I'm gonna pretend as if it didn't happen. She said it's good. It won't ever happen again. I don't want to deal with it. And so we just ignore it, right? And just like with your guys, probably in porn use, right? And I know so many of my clients, they'll just, if I don't talk about it, it's not there. Or if I'm not doing it as often, it's not as bad. And so, but this stuff never goes away. It'll reappear one day when you're not expecting it, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's not the kind of makeup sex I think that fixes this for sure. No way. Yeah, 100%. there's something bigger happening for sure in the marriage, and also without acting out your partner who cheats. They have a lot of work to do, and if they tell you they don't, that's a red flag. But we can talk red flags later or now or whatever you want. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's a good question. So many of the guys I work with, and just even thinking of my own experience, definitely depression can happen, and I'll say in the therapy world or just in the world in general, maybe we overuse the word depression, but we can. There's different levels, right? So you know, like that, just lack of a will of want to getting out of bed, or really working, or just feeling slow and sluggish. It affects your health, right? Like sleep patterns get interrupted. I have a lot of guys that might start overeating. I've had guys that were not addicted to porn that have started using porn a lot. That's something that can happen. Um, it just kind of eats away at men's souls, and it keeps them stuck. And I have guys, they start like, I have a bunch of guys that kind of become workaholics, right? I'm gonna make up for that loss or that lack of me being a man, and I'm gonna produce. I'm gonna make more money, more money. I'm gonna work more, work more. Also, going to work's a great escape, right? I don't have to be around stuff, and I can get lost in it. Yeah, 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 100%. Yeah, it's all about numbing out in different ways and not having to feel that pain for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, actually, let me just kind of, Hunter, like what I've learned working like in my therapy, my just CSAT therapy practice, I only work with men. And what I've learned working with men and also being a man is I think we all like to see like the path. We like to understand, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? What does this look like? As much as the joke is we don't like to read instructions, we certainly like to understand what something looks like. And just with all my betrayal work and my own personal experience, I kind of learned that there's kind of a stages we go through, right? And we were kind of right, and that first is easy, right? It's that initial shock, right? That's that ego injury part. And then from that, right, a man will be questioning our self-worth, which I feel like we've just been talking a fair amount about. And then one of my favorite topics is anger and projection. And I don't know about you, Hunter, in your practice and stuff, but I've learned that men don't understand anger, and that anger is often very toxic. And when I tell guys like we're going to work on healthy anger, they just have this dumbfounded look, like, yeah, is that how can you put the word healthy and anger together? Um, what guys don't realize is underneath your anger, that's your sadness, and that's the pathway to the healing and to the growth and to everything that you want in life. But you have to get past the anger, and that's actually back to one of your first questions. If you don't do your work, if you ignore the betrayal and the trauma, and you hold on to the anger, well, that's just going to keep coming out sideways in different ways, from sarcasm to being rude to, I don't know, I guess being not being nice on the roads when you're driving around, right? It has to find a way out. So yeah, yeah, that's the worst. Yeah, Yeah. Yeah. Actually, what I see in the men that do this work, and I just know my own journey of being betrayed, is I see men become men they never even imagined they could be. And so many of the guys that do this work, they have to learn boundaries for themselves and their partners and others, and they have to learn vulnerability. And I have to tell you, when you find those gifts, you can navigate anything, and you're just become a better man. So anger is super important. The other important stage I have is competitiveness and jealousy, right? Which most of us guys, we can do that pretty good, if you will. Um, and that's just, we were talking about that before, right? I've had clients that they'll go have like revenge sex or stuff like that, or they'll have an emotional affair to try to get even with their partner. My ex-wife, she said I could go do that if I wanted to, and I didn't. It felt dirty. It didn't feel like it would fix anything. And the guys that I work with that have done it, they've even said like it just made it worse. Like they even now they're now they're not only dealing with their pain, but now they're dealing with their guilt, right? It doesn't fix anything. And then, the other part is jealousy. I'll tell you, Hunter, one of the things I did when I found out is I started scheming, and actually I wrote about it in my book a little bit. I started scheming on how I was going to get even with the guy that my ex was having the affair with. Like I knew them and his business, and I was going to email some of their people, and he had a girlfriend at the time. I was going to do a bunch of stuff, and I'll admit it felt really good coming up with all those strategies. I didn't do any of that. That's just not who I am. But what I learned was that that was all misplaced energy. Like I could have been using that time to heal and to learn about myself. Like I was giving this guy energy, and this guy didn't give a crap who I was necessarily. And he didn't, right? It's like someone having free rent in my head. And when I started realizing that, and I realized that my focus had to be on me and on my marriage at that time, that kind of changed everything to get away from that competitiveness and jealousy. Yep. Yes. Yes. And yeah. And a lot of these things work both ways, right? To a certain extent. Yeah, totally. Always. Yeah. 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 And look, social media and the crap we see on TV, that's not helping. One of my biggest pet peeves out there is like all of these subreddit groups around where men get on these groups and they just bash their partners, And let me say this: betrayal, it's a man and a woman or a man and a man. That in this world that doesn't matter. But most of the groups I see on Reddit are the man bashing the woman and slamming women, and all these. I'm not going to say all the things you can read on there, but um, just some vile things about women. And yeah, and I want you men to know that going on those groups is not going to make you feel better. It's not going to help you heal. It's not going to give you the answers you need. And if anything, it creates and adds more pain. And it's other men that are bitter, and they're not doing their work, and they're not owning their own shit. And that's just got to stop. Like that doesn't work for anyone. So, you know, Yeah, there's a lot of toxic stuff going on out there. So men, if you need help, yeah, if you need help, find a group that a betrayal trauma coach leads or a therapist leads, something that has someone that has training in this kind of work. That's where you'll get the best help for sure. Mm. Yeah, but not only that, those environments, I have some guys that are like, I don't think I ever want to date, like get married again. Like they have such a distaste in their mouth just for the whole idea of having a relationship. And that sounds so sad to me because I worked with plenty of guys that have reconciled and done the work and or the marriage relationship ended and they gotten a new one. I'm remarried to a beautiful woman and we have a very great and healthy relationship. And that would never have happened if I didn't do my work. She does hers too, just to be clear. But yeah, you find that's the other thing. You probably see this, Hunter, in your practice is like we attract where we're at. So if you don't do the work, you're going to attract another unhealthy person. If you're doing the work and you're healthy, you're going to attract that same kind of person. It happen. I see it happening all the time. Yeah, 100%. I see it happen a lot. Yeah, to stay. Yeah, I would say this too. I I want my guys to stay in the relationship unless a few things are happening, and I'm just going to throw out the red flags, right? And yeah, and one is if your partner is not taking accountability, if they're not owning what they did, that's a big red flag. If they're the word of the, I guess the last 10, 20 years, if they're gaslighting you, that's a big one. If they're not willing to accept your boundaries, right? And I'm not saying crazy boundaries, right? But usually after betrayal, there's like any therapist or betrayal trauma coach can help you with basic boundaries to be safe. If they're not willing to accept those boundaries, that's a big red flag. If they're not willing to cut off well, all contact with the acting out partner, I mean, that's a no-go, right? That's a deal. That's the biggest deal breaker to me. Um, so yeah, if they're not doing the red flags, I would consider getting out. If they're willing to do the work and own their part and do, and also if they're willing to go to therapy and do, or coaching or whatever they have agreed to, those are all great things. And if you can do both do the work, you come back together healthier. It's the the way to do it. I didn't have, I couldn't find, for me, I'll just use my journey. Man, I got online. I couldn't find like any therapist or anything that really specialized in it. I was already in a men's group through the Mankind Project. I don't know if you've ever heard of that organization. So I kind of already had my men's group. I had my band of brothers. I mean, they weren't trained in this, but they were trained in loving me and seeing me, and it was safe. And so I had what I found is guys love to tell the betrayal story over and over again. Like when I work with guys, I hear it over and over. And it's just because I think that's how we process it, right? And then once we're done telling that story, however many times we need to, and however many different ways, then we can start the work. But I think the most important thing is to not to be alone and to share your story and to find healthy support. And, that's one reason why I wrote my book is to help men understand what you're going to navigate. And that's the feedback I've been getting from guys that have been reading it is that like every stage is like, yeah, I get it. That's where I'm at and that's what I'm doing. And so I think that's how you navigate this for sure. Yeah. I can't cannot tell you guys how many times I would go to my men's group and I would just cry and they would just hold me, like they would just like be around me or hands on my shoulder. And that was like, and I can hear them and feel they were crying, right? It's like that's the other thing. I think men, like, I don't know about you, like I kind of grew up, not that men were my enemy, but men were my competition. And as I've gotten older and as I've been doing my work and my healing and all this stuff, I've learned that men are my brothers. And there's that, like, that collective unconscious, there's that thread that runs through all of us. And every man can feel your pain, even if they've never truly experienced something like that. But I think most all of us have experienced some sort of betrayal to different levels. So we understand, we get it. So yeah, be witnessed, vulnerable. Yeah, yeah. Because I just remember also in my group, I know because the guys told me that, like, my journey and them watching me helped them. It opened them up more. It made them bolder in their own marriages and in their life, right? And I think that's super important. But also in like one of my fifth stage or so is withdrawal and isolation. That's like a normal part of this journey. I want to say that there's nothing wrong necessarily with withdrawing or isolating. I think we have to do that sometimes. It's kind of like that's the part to me where parts of us get to die, and that's where we get to have parts get reborn. What's dangerous is if you shut yourself off from the rest of the world, if you stop doing the things you're supposed to be doing, right? But going within, taking time to yourself, if it's going on a trip by yourself or I need days off where I just go on a little drive, that's important. I think that's where we get to process and we get to start that rebuilding and transformation stage for sure. I like that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Whatever speaks to you, yeah. Yep. No, no, that's true. Actually, one of the things I talk a lot to my guys about is the idea of surrender. Most men, they think about surrender means you're weak. And yeah, right. I mean, I was raised that way playing sports and stuff. And what I explain is surrender. I challenge them, like, what if surrender is actually one of the bravest things you can do to actually admit that, hey, I need help, or hey, I don't know how to do this, or hey, I got to regroup, you know? I mean, that's like surrender is where we get to stop and look around and kind of reassess what's happening and make the changes we need to make so we can get to those other stages to then be able to rebuild and transform ourselves into something new. You know, I don't have an answer for your question. I'll tell you this though. I mean, I've worked with plenty of strong egoed men. And one thing betrayal does is it'll knock you down at the knees. And so what I see a lot is like the ego wound part is that's when the surrender starts to happen. When the ego just kind of, like, I call it the ego trap. Like we get trapped in our ego and the ego's tricking us. And then we just get so exhausted and nothing else is working and the pain is so great that ultimately we have to surrender. I can't really think of any guys I work with that haven't ultimately surrendered in some way, shape, or form, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, one step. It's a great point. Yeah, yeah, and that's yeah. And this work, a lot of men I work with me too. It's like I am so impatient, and I want to jump a mile every time. And guys, I just got to tell you, this work, I think it's kind of in millimeters. And sometimes or the old, you know, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, if you will, too. This is not quick work. Don't expect this to be fixed overnight. I would say you're into a journey of a couple of years. And that doesn't mean it takes a couple of years, it's just a slow progress and you will get better and better and better and it will compound itself. But this takes years to get over for sure, to get the proper growth out of it. Yeah. Section. Yeah. 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 To get to recovery versus sobriety, right? That kind of idea. Yeah. 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 The other thing is this work isn't necessarily about fixing your relationship. Because the truth is, if your if your partner that cheated on you, if they're doing their work and you're doing this work, right, the relationship will naturally start to heal and you'll grow together. The gift in this, and I think it is a gift, although a lot of people don't, is that it gets to wake you up. It shakes you. It lets you see where you're falling short as a man, or why did I pick a person like this, or why didn't I speak my truth? I know for me, like I kind of knew, right? And I could feel us drifting apart, and I didn't do anything about it. Like I was scared of that intimacy. I was a little bit of like a love avoidant, and those things give false permission to the acting out partner, right? To go cheat or whatever it is. And like this wakes you up. This gives you a chance to really speak your truth on what you want and find out who you want to be as a man. And also I'll tell you, if you have children, you get to show them. They get to see what it's like to have a father who's present and emotionally available. And this work will do that. This work will open you up. This work is so much more than about the betrayal or saving your marriage. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. Yeah, and guys, trust me, your kids, no matter their age, they kind of know what's going on. And I'll tell you, a few years back, my son, he said to me, he's like, Dad, you're happy. And I was like, yeah, I was, I had the woman that became my wife. We were dating and all that. I was like, yeah, I'm really happy. I'm like, my life's really good. And he's like, and he looked at me and he was just kind of sad. And he said, he goes, I realize all those years you weren't happy. Like I could see the difference. And that blew me away because I thought I was doing such a good job holding it in and showing up for him. And no one will know, right? But they know. People know. They can tell a difference in you for sure, even if you think you're masking it or holding on to it while suppressing it well. Yeah. Yeah. Even being intimate with yourself. Truly, one of the things I love is guys come back to me and they say, like, I know who I am now. You know, that's big. I love that, you know. Yeah. Yep. 100%. True. True. 100%. Yeah. But look, no, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, like, I wish I didn't go through that experience. And I'm also grateful I did. Like, I tell people it was the worst time of my life and it was the best. It got, like, I look where I'm at today and I don't know if I'd be here without that experience. And isn't that what life's about? The experiences, the good and the bad. And it's how we show up and how we answer that bell. Yeah. 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 The infatuation phase. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What? Yeah. 'No, that'll never happen again. And like if you look like in relationships, right? They're always a cycle. It's a circle, and we always get down to almost every relationship will get down to conflict, and we get stuck. And then something happens, good or bad, and then we come back out. It's like the hero's journey. You got to go through the descent. You got to come out, and then we get to keep replaying that over and over again in different ways. But you got to do your work, or you stay stuck, or you never get there. You never get back up to the top again, for sure. Hopefully, yeah, yeah, 100%, yeah, 'Cause grow and learn, yeah, 100%. Yep, yeah, we are. We're just bouncing around, but I mean, it's just doing the work, meeting with someone like me or you or any other therapist, being vulnerable, finding healthy men's groups, stuff like that. Um, and then, I want to say this, that just because let's say you heal doesn't mean the work's over, right? I find the guys that do this work, it's like a transformation. Well, why would you want to stop healing and growing and learning and just trying to be a better person? I think this is just a great liftoff to becoming someone different and better. And And that's something we could be seeking the rest of our lives in different ways, for sure. Yeah, 100%. I think, today often I see in the world, right, a lot of men struggle with integrity and accountability. And this is another great chance to learn that and to be that and to be better than someone else and just to better yourself. So that's another part of this work for sure. Yeah, you're in it. Like you've moved on, right? Like that's one of those stages when you just know, right? It's a being. It's like I'm gonna be okay. Like that's the other thing I've learned on my journey is like when you navigate something like this and come out on the other side, you can be healthy and you can reinvent yourself and all that. It's pretty hard to think of anything or have anything that can really ever truly knock you down again because you have the tools and the ability and you have the self-awareness that so many men that I work with don't have until they start doing this work. Even addiction work, right? In the porn world, you do this work, you learn you can overcome anything when you overcome this kind of stuff for sure. Yeah. 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 It's okay to fall down or not know what to do. But, but get up. You know how to do this. You've already done hard. Most all of us have already done hard things in our life. We just forget that. You know? Yeah. 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 Or Hollywood models it for us. I mean, I tell my guys a lot that I think the bravest thing a man can do is actually cry and be witness crying. That's pretty brave. And not only that, I think not only is that brave, I think that's a true leader. Someone that can really show their heart and their emotions and be that vulnerable and that exposed to trust themselves. I think that's the gift. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's it's never. You probably know this, Hunter. I've experienced this so much in my life. And those things are never as bad as you think they will. Your brain will tell you, "Don't do it," or this, right? It's never as bad as you make it up to be. And actually, usually those situations are so freeing and healing. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. It's terrible. I'm laughing. It's so bad. Hmm. Brutal. We're easy. I mean, yeah, yeah, 100%. That's a great metaphor. Like, I think roller coasters are like life, right? They're scary. We don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes we're holding on tight, and sometimes we're laughing. And what's often crazy is we get off the roller coaster and we want to get right back on again, you know? So, yeah, it's a good metaphor. It truly is. Yeah. You know, I want I want to say I think we hit all the high spots, but I would just say this, guys. Don't isolate. Don't do this alone. Don't don't just think you can put your head down and push through this because you can't. It won't work in the long run. Um, so yeah, ask for help. Surrender. Be actually a brave, strong man and ask for help and surrender. That's what I would tell everyone. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or when they eat spicy food. I don't know. Either or. All the above. Totally. Mm-mm. Something. Yeah. I think that's why 12-step groups work so well is you realize, oh, I'm not crazy or I'm not the only one, but yeah, another thing I just want to point out, you brought up, I know we're wrapping it up, but what I call masculine betrayal trauma, men getting cheated on is not talked about much. And it's always the media and all the stories we hear is always the woman, as we were alluding to. And it's something like they estimate 18% of committed or marriages men are cheated on. 18%. That's a huge number. Women, I think it's like 30. The problem is guys don't talk about this. Guys don't want to admit it. And so we don't really know the numbers, but I want to guess it's as close as to women getting cheated on today. So man up, own it. Help your brother by owning it. And we can help men heal for sure. Thank you. Yeah. It's on Amazon, like everything. Yeah. I mean, I do betrayal coaching just in this realm for men. I do processes based on my book, and I do the occasional men's groups. So those just kind of ebb and flow. And I'm creating more content. I just launched a new website. It has actually, if you've just been cheated on, it has an assessment in there you can do, and it can kind of show you where you're at in your betrayal journey. I have blogs in there. I'm actually creating a journal for men and a small little handbook on trusting after betrayal. So the site has content all the time, and a lot of it's free. And also on my website, I have some online courses that you can link to that can help you navigate this if you can't work with someone like myself or Hunter or your therapist. I have a lot of resources to help men navigate betrayal on my site. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, guys, I'm telling you guys, if you're struggling with porn, reach out to Hunter. Those groups are one of the best ways to get the work done and to get it done fast and to feel loved and supported and not alone, for sure. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You got it.